Good afternoon and welcome to the August 19, 2013 meeting of the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission. I will now proceed with the roll call. Commissioners Fuad?
Here.
Kalfayan?
Here.
Khan?
Here.
Sharkey is absent. Wu?
Present.
The agenda for the August 19, 2013 meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall on or before Friday, August 16, 2013. At this time, I will take item 7A1 out of order. That's election of officers. At A is president, and at B is secretary.
If I might, I would suggest maybe we look at continuing this item for 1 month until Commissioner Sharkey is back, and then we have a full commission, and then we could vote both on the president and the secretary, if that's okay with my fellow commissioners.
I second it.
Yes.
Okay. In that case, we would need, I would ask you to please select a president pro tem.
I would nominate Commissioner Khan.
Do I hear any other nominations?
Second.
Okay. Hearing no further nominations, I'll proceed with the roll call. Commissioner Fuad?
Here.
I would, yes.
Or yes, rather.
Commissioner Kalfayan?
Here.
Yes or no?
Yes,
sir?
yes, sorry.
Thank you. Khan?
I better say yes.
Sharkey is absent. Commissioner Wu?
Yes.
Okay, so I now declare Commissioner Khan the president pro tem, and you can preside over the rest of the meeting.
Great. Thank you very much. What is next on the agenda?
Item number 2 is upcoming council agenda items.
Mr. President Pro Tem Khan, members of the Commission, we are wrapping up a very busy summer season, as you will see from the reports that we have before you today. And we are at the same time kicking off some major capital improvement projects, which again you will be receiving reports on this afternoon. So I do want to apologize in advance for the length of today's agenda, but we would like to err on the side of more information than not, especially since we have 3 new Parks Commissioners. But this is the section in the agenda where I briefly run down the upcoming council agenda items for the Commission's information. The City Council does plan to go dark, to not have council meetings on August 27th and September 3rd. So on September 10th, 2013, we do have a motion before the council to approve the Cowboy on the Hill art donation and location of placement. And again, you will be receiving a report today and a request for a motion to recommend approval by the council. So that will be going to the council on September 10th. Also on September 10th will be a motion to approve the 2012 Winter Shelter Program closeout report and to provide staff with direction for the 2013 Winter Shelter Program. I think you all know that the Community Services and the Parks Department is responsible for the city's homeless programs, and one of those programs is the Winter Shelter Program, for which we work very closely with the County of Los Angeles and a local service provider, currently Ascensia, to implement that program to help homeless families and individuals here in Glendale and the immediate surrounding area. Also on September 10th, we have a resolution we're planning a resolution of appropriation to transfer $25,000 in community development block grant funds to the Ascensia Emergency Shelter and Homeless Access Center Rehabilitation Project, and approval by City Council for a second amendment to the grant agreement to account for the increased grant amount for the additional $25,000. And that would be to fill a funding gap in that construction project, which would allow us to complete the rehabilitation of that project. So we're going to go to council and ask for approval for that. And that's all that we have on the docket thus far.
Okay. Thank you.
Item 3 is commission staff comments.
Did any of the commissioners have any comments you'd like to make? Please.
President Pro Tem Khan, I would like to see if I could make a special presentation to our Director Duran, if I may.
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
May I go to the podium if you don't
Please.
mind? So since I'm on this side of the podium, I'm going to go ahead and say I wanted to wear my other hat, which is I serve as the president of the Korea Glendale Sister City Association. And this past July 30th, we had the unveiling of the Comfort Women Peace Monument, which was a very historical day for the city of Glendale as well as our Korean American residents in the city of Glendale and North Glendale. So I would like to see if I could present a special certificate of appreciation to Director Duran, who played a very intricate part in making all that happen for our association as well as the city of Glendale. So I have a special plaque that's here on behalf of the Korean American Forum of California. So it reads, Certificate of Appreciation, Korean American Forum of California presents this certificate to Duran, Jess Duran, Director of Community Services and Parks, City of Glendale. We convey our deepest gratitude and respect for your tireless and courageous efforts made in honoring the victims of sexual slavery by Japan in the City of Glendale, California, July 30th, 2013.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Khan, members of the Commission. I would only like to add that if you were there or you followed any of the media reports, there was very strong support on the part of the City Council for this monument and this dedication. It is a peace monument. It is the initial monument of what will be known as the Sister City Monument a breezeway at Central Park. So we are in the process of developing a more refined master plan for the Sister City Monument area of Central Park. So this is the first project, so it's the trailblazer, and we're very proud to have been a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Wu. That was very nice. Is there any staff comments at this time?
President Pro Tem Khan, members of the Commission, I'd like to make two announcements. This Saturday, August 24th, at the Civic Auditorium, Glendale Glory 4 boxing tournament will take place. Doors open at 6 o'clock. There's going to be, I believe, 10 bouts, and we're pretty excited to bring boxing back to the Civic Auditorium. Second announcement, September 20th at Central Park, we'll be having the street food cinema and a food truck festival. We're going to have outdoor movies in the park and a food truck festival at Central Park. Doors will open at 5 till about 11 o'clock, September 28th.
Great. Anything else from staff? Okay, what is next?
Item 4, introductions and presentations. At A, recognition of cruise night sponsors.
President Pro Tem Khan, members of the Commission, Cruise Night 2013 was held July 20th on Brand Boulevard. As I mentioned in previous meetings, the entire event was funded by corporate and community sponsorships. With that being said, I would like the Commission to provide certificates of appreciation and thank our sponsors, and hopefully we'll see our sponsors next year, 2014. We had many sponsors, from $15,000 donations to $300 donations, and if it wasn't for them, the event would have been downsized and much smaller. In my monthly activity report, I'll be reviewing the cruise night event, but I would like to thank all our participants and our sponsors by providing them a certificate of appreciation and a video of the event. We have a 40-minute video.
I'm sorry, how long was the video?
40-minute video. It's a copy of the DVD.
Oh, okay, perfect.
No, not now. We all want to get home tonight.
Got a little scared there.
We have a copy of the DVD.
Yeah.
We have a copy of the DVD
Okay.
for all our sponsors.
Okay.
And for them to enjoy. Thank you, GTV6, for making us copies. So with that being said, I'd like to provide certificates to Pacific Coast Tile Company. so I'm not sure if any member of
Could
the
you guys,
commission...
would you like members of the commission to hand them to them?
Yes.
Could you,
Pacific Coast Title Company.
that's all right. Share the joy.
Want me to stay?
Please.
Window Tints Glendale.
Thank you.
Jewel City Bowl. Thank you. Carousel Restaurant.
Very much.
Glendale Water and Power.
Thank you.
And then the rest of the certificates we have, we don't have anyone available from the organization. We're going to mail them out, the certificate.
Okay.
But all the sponsors will be announced in my monthly activity report.
You'll do that again later? Okay. Could we have a round of applause for those folks? Thank you very much for that.
Item 5 is oral communications. I don't have any cards.
Okay.
At item 6, consent items, 6A, approval of the minutes of the commission regular meeting held on July 15, 2013.
I move we approve the minutes.
I second it.
I'll take roll call. Commissioners Fwad,
Yes.
Kafayan,
Yes.
Sharkey is absent, Wu,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Khan.
I'll abstain.
Item 7, business agenda, A, action items, action items. At 2, donation of Clint Eastwood art. At A is a motion to recommend approval by the City Council of an art installation at the proposed location.
Mr. Durian?
As President Pro Tem Khan, I'd like to request to take an agenda item out of order. I'd like to take agenda item 7.4 and do that now, if it's okay with the rest of the commissioners.
7-4?
7A4?
7A4?
7A4, yes.
Do you guys, is that okay with you? Is that okay? Sure, that'd be fine.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'll read it into the record. 7A4 is a motion to note and file a report regarding the 2014 Glendale Rose Float.
Good afternoon, President Pro Tem Khan, members of the Commission. My name is Teresa Alexanian, Executive Analyst with Community Services and Parks. On July 23rd, the City Council approved the 2014 Rose Float design called Let's Be Neighbors as Glendale's 100th entry into the Tournament of Rose Parade. In recognition of the fact that Glendale has more than 5,000 acres of open space, the city's float, Let's Be Neighbors, which is portrayed right there, portrays some of the more widely seen members of the wild animal community that Glendale that call Glendale their home. Featured on the float are native inhabitants, the coyote, California mule deer, red-tailed hawk, North American raccoon, striped skunk, western gray squirrel, American goldfinch, and of course the California black bear that I guess the community knows or is referring to as Meatball, as we know that Meatball called Glendale its home for a period of time. There'll be a lot of detailed sculpting and animation with the animals and the animation with Meatball going in and out of the trash can, so it'll be a very fun float this year. The float is representative of Glendale's residential neighborhoods abutting parks and open space where people and wildlife can coexist, with so many outdoor activities available in Glendale. The float further acknowledges that the city is one of Southern California's destination spots for recreation and family fun. and of course, access to the open space and outdoor recreation activities. The float suggests that that it's not only desirable but possible for all those who live in the wildlife-urban interface to live together in harmony, and the 2014 theme for the Tournament of Roses is Dreams Come True. And as I mentioned before, this will be the city's 100th year. Council had appropriated $155,000 for this float, 150 being the cost of the float, which we have a contract with Phoenix Decorating to design and build the float. Council also approved a two-tier fundraising strategy this year, which includes not only sponsorships, but provides an opportunity for the community to enter a raffle drawing with $25 or more, a donation of $25 or more. They can be entered into a raffle drawing for 2 seats to ride on the Rose Float on New Year's Day. So the community has an opportunity. More information can be found on the park's website, on the city's website, www.ci.glendale.ca.us/parks. The raffle drawing rules and a donation form are available for the community to donate. So this is our float for the city's float for 2014. Be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions?
How much, the bear being in the garbage can, how did that evolve?
Well,
Not the bear so much, but the garbage can aspect of it. Trash can.
I think it's just fun with Meatball going into the trash cans and of residents. I think it was just more of a fun aspect and gave an opportunity for animation for it to be able to go in and out of the trash can.
If I may expand on that a little bit, since I was on the design selection committee, I think you always try to find something that's reflective of your community, of your city, or an icon of your community. And so when we're looking at floats that had an animal theme, the kinds of animals we thought were reflective of Glendale are those depicted. And when we got to the black bear, again, to have fun with it, to try to depict an icon, we settled on the bear that has a likeness of Meatball. And his reputation is that he goes into trash cans at night and looks for meatballs, and so his likeness is depicted on the float, and it has really resonated with the public. We received hundreds and hundreds of emails from persons supporting the idea and Meatball and the city's design selection for this float. So far so good.
Including the bear in the trash can.
Including the bear in the trash can.
I have no problem with the bear at all. I mean, I think that's great. Trash can, it seems maybe a little insensitive or demeaning, but maybe that's just me. That's all I have.
Any other questions? Please.
If I may, the $150,000 is for the Phoenix company to fix the flowers and the float.
To construct,
To construct
and
it.
design, construct, and
And the
build.
5,000 is to enter to the Rose Parade, right? And how much more do we need to raise?
Well,
Okay.
staff had identified that we would raise $75,000 from community donations and sponsorships, and right now we have $12,700. $10,000 of that is a sponsorship from Holland Partners, and we've received $2,700 in donations from the community
That
so far.
75,000 is, where is it being spent? Where would you spend it?
Well, the $75,000 from the $150,000, we were going to try to raise $75,000. So it's part of that $150,000.
If I may clarify, the city council has already appropriated the money. The money we need to build a float has been appropriated. Our goal is to raise half the money to offset the appropriation. So if the community could raise $75,000, then that means in the end, the city only had to spend $75,000. So that's the goal, and we're still hopeful that we'll reach that goal. As we get closer to the new year and momentum builds and excitement builds, hopefully more donations will come in.
Thank you.
I was going to add to that, though. I think we're way off, right? I mean, we're not close. If we're trying to get to 75,000, and at best we've done is 12,000, how are we going to kind of fuel that pump, so to speak, or get those donations coming in? I see what you're saying here, that it talks about the city's website or through social media. I'm assuming you're doing that right now.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
We-
So what else do you think we can do to try to get those funds in?
President Pro Tem Khan, members of the Commission, there's also a good potential for a fundraising activity or two. Part of the stir that was created when we introduced the Roseville design to the City Council is we did receive a couple of inquiries from organizations that want to organize fundraisers to help raise funds for the float. And so we think that at least one of those inquiries will materialize into a major fundraising event. And so we're hopeful that that comes to fruition as well. And the venue that we are looking at, which would be fitting, is Duke Majan. So it'll be an outdoor, probably wine and cheese type reception to help raise funds for the float.
Okay. Do you think we need to do more than that? I mean, should we be doing multiple things to try to raise it, or?
But we will continue to do advertising on all of our media outlets. Teresa and I will probably be making presentations at council meetings once or twice a month leading up to the new year. If there are additional suggestions that commissioners or anyone might have, we're open to suggestions as well.
Yeah.
$25 was decided on what basis to raise, to be able to go into the raffle? What basis was the $25?
To be Commissioner Kalfine, to be perfectly honest, it was a pretty random dollar amount. We wanted it to be reasonable enough that any member of the community would be able to afford to donate to the float and have an opportunity to ride on the float, but we didn't want to make it too low of an amount that we wouldn't be able to raise as much as we're hoping to raise. So.
And the food, wine and cheese, what kind of income would that bring us?
We're not sure, but for example, for a $50 ticket, if we can get 300 or 400 persons, knowing that the main reason they're buying the ticket is to donate to the float, then have an opportunity for an outdoor reception on a nice afternoon. I don't know what kind of a program. Again, this is an organization that is interested, but the caveat is that they would have to do most of the organizing and coordination because we don't have the staff resources to be developing fundraisers. But they seem to be very willing to do what they can to help us out with the fundraiser.
I would suggest that they consider inviting wineries and do a wine tasting that way to be kind of unique event, so you can charge $50 than just food and wine and cheese regular thing.
Yeah, I think it would make sense to have a program or some schedule or something that you guys could work towards, as opposed to just hoping that as we get closer and closer, more money would come in. And that way we could also think ourselves of ways, but it sounds like it's not happening. Whatever we need to do more or figure something else out. So,
Okay.
anyway. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Okay, I'll go back to item 7A2, donation of Clint Eastwood art. At A, motion to recommend approval by the City Council of an art installation at the proposed location.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Khan, members of the Commission. I'm Mark Sturdivant, Senior Analyst for Community Services and Parks. As you may recall, sometime last year, a series of life-size plywood cutouts of several movie cowboy heroes appeared along the 2 freeway between the 134 and the 210. John Wayne found a spot overlooking Glendale High School, which, by the way, was his alma mater, at the junction of the 2 and the 134 freeways. Gene Autry popped up across from the Glendale Sports Complex, and Clint Eastwood received the most attention after he appeared near the Verdugo Hills Hospital. And these cutout sculptures garnered a lot of attention, including coverage in the Glendale News Press and the Los Angeles Times. Now, the story of Clint Eastwood is the one that's the most interesting. One morning when the artist, who simply goes by the name of Justin, one morning when he was hiking up to that cutout by the Verdugo Hills Hospital to make some repairs because some vandals had come along and damaged the sculpture, he encountered a gentleman from La Cañada by the name of Reg Green. Now, Reg was a hiker, is a hiker, and hikes in the San Rafael Hills all the time. And the two of them met up there by the Clint Eastwood sculpture. They began to talk, and Reg eventually told Justin the story of his son, Nicholas. Now, in a nutshell, Nicholas was murdered at the age of 7 during a bungled robbery attempt while the family was on vacation in Italy. The story received worldwide attention when Reg and his wife Maggie donated Nicholas's organs to 7 very sick Italians, 4 of whom were teenagers. And Reg and his wife then decided they wanted to erect a monument in Nicholas's honor and to honor all children. And because this had happened in Italy and it had garnered so much attention, the Papal Foundry at the Vatican actually produced and donated a bell to be hung at the monument. And after word of this got out, other bells began to arrive. Ship's bells, church bells, school bells, all kinds of bells, 140 in all, which are now all part of this monument to Nicholas. Well, Justin was very moved by this story, and he went back to work repairing the damaged Clint Eastwood sculpture. And the next time that Reg hiked the area, he saw the repaired Clint Eastwood, and he noticed that instead of a gun, Clint Eastwood was holding a bell. Now, ultimately, the cutout was damaged again, and then it was destroyed, so it no longer sits at its spot up by the Verdugo Hospital. It's been gone now for several months. But in the interim, Justin reached out to the city, and working with Annette Vartanians from our Library, Arts, and Culture Department, he offered to donate a new Clint Eastwood sculpture as part of the city's public arts program. Annette contacted me, and together with Bill Ahern, the city's GIS expert, we set out to find a proper new location for this new Clint Eastwood sculpture. And the spot that we found, and the one that we decided upon, is above the Glendale Sports Complex. I don't know if you can see it clearly in this slide, but in the upper right-hand corner there's a red star. It's at the top of a ridge line. It's visible from the 2 freeway. It's silhouetted against the sky, and yet it's not on one of our trails. It's more remote, and we think this is going to discourage anyone who might want to come along and do the sculpture harm, like what happened when the sculpture was located near Verdugo Hills Hospital. So if you can see the red star in the upper right-hand corner, that's the top of the ridge line. It's looking down towards the baseball diamonds at the sports complex.
Mark,
Yes.
I think you have a pointer there on the...
Well, let's see if I can point to it. How about right there?
There it is. Okay.
This is the 2 freeway. This is the entry road to the sports complex. This is the maintenance building. And then the parking lot would be here, soccer fields down below, baseball diamonds over here. On July 18th, the Arts and Culture Commission unanimously moved to recommend that the City Council accept the donation of the Clint Eastwood sculpture, and I believe the action before you today is to recommend that the Council accept the donation at the proposed location in the city's open space. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Questions?
I have a quick question.
Please.
Now, would it be up to the city to maintain the sculpture?
I think it's going to probably be up to the artist to maintain the sculpture.
Oh, okay, so the city will not be bound to any further expense.
We hope that it's at a location where it will simply be left alone and people can view it as they drive along the freeway or look up from the sports complex grounds.
What is the sculpture made out of?
It's plywood. Life size, about that tall. And
And refresh my memory, why Clint Eastwood and the other Western people?
you know, Justin says that it was to create a sense of freedom as drivers drove along the 2 freeway or hikers hiked in the San Rafael Hills. I know personally as a Glendale resident, when those 3 sculptures were up, I always thought those cowboys, which were my heroes when I was growing up as a kid, were kind of looking down and just making sure that everything was okay in Glendale. So I suppose every observer might bring their own sort of interpretation of what the cowboy sculptures means. To me, it meant they were up there looking out for us. To Justin, it meant a symbol of freedom.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So it seems that you need from us a motion.
Yes, please.
Would someone like to make a motion?
Move it.
Okay.
Second.
Commissioners Fogg,
Yes.
Kafayan,
Yes.
Sharkey is absent, Wu,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Khan.
Yes, thank you very much.
And President Pro Tem Khan, Commissioners, I would like to request that we return to item 7A4, as it was an action item, and we would need a motion.
We can return.
Okay. So once again, 7A4 is a motion to note and file a report regarding the 2014 Glendale Rose Float.
Okay, could we get a motion from one of the commissioners?
Move it.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And I'll take roll call. Commissioners Fod,
Yes.
Kafayan,
Yes.
Khan,
Yes.
Sharkey is absent, and Wu.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. What is next?
7A3, Parks Landscape Maintenance Operations Internal Audit Recommendations and Actions Implemented, and Park Maintenance Standards and Procedures Manual. At A is a motion to note and file a report regarding Parks Landscape Maintenance Operations Internal Audit Recommendations and Actions Implemented, and at B is a motion to review and provide feedback regarding the Park Maintenance Standards and Procedures Manual.
Good afternoon, President Pro Tem Khan, members of the Commission. What I'd like to present to you today, I put together a brief PowerPoint to highlight some of the points, the key points from the audit, so the viewing public can actually follow along with it. In short, a couple of years ago, in 2001, the city's internal audit department conducted an audit of our operation, Park Services operation. And the objectives at the time were to get a full understanding of the Park Services operation, our staffing levels, the facilities, job responsibilities, and related costs, and ultimately to identify methods that we, in turn, can be more efficient in delivering our services to our community. With that, there were 8 improvement opportunities identified by internal audit. I'd like to identify all 8 of them in the next couple of slides and then go on to the implementation actions that we have taken thus far. First of them were regarding our landscape contract. What we found to be inefficient is the fact that the contractor wasn't submitting the monthly scheduling or the weekly scheduling of where they were, what jobs they had completed. Audit felt that we completely understood. It is very important for us to have that schedule so we can confer that the work was actually completed. I will talk about the results as we go forward. Second was to provide staff with a checklist of our tasks for daily and weekly responsibilities and to specify the expected completion times. Number 3 was to reinstate a work order system to record actual time spent on tasks. You will note a lot of these will be fairly intertwined. They're very related as to once you do one, you start going to the other steps. Number 4 was document playground inspections by having staff sign the inspection sheets. 5, to provide documentation for our routine, non-routine tasks and complaints to support monthly activity reports to Commission. 6, to create a centralized system for all complaints and issues raised by either a member of the public and or internal staff. 7, review, update, and implement the Parks Operations Standards and Procedures Manual, which you have before you today. And number 8 was to implement a system to document time spent on different tasks, issue a request for proposal, to get pricing from a private contractor, and make sure that we have supporting documentation for all the paperwork we submit. As such, we start working with our staff a couple of years back. For item number 1, we created a schedule that the contractor now submits on a monthly basis along with their invoicing that they submit. And our field operation manager, Bill McKinley, will verify that said work is completed and then make sure that they process the invoice based on the completed work. And as is the case, if the contractor misses any of the work identified, we are now looking at holding back payment for work that is not in compliance. For number 2, we did create a 2-week work schedule, which you actually have attached in the documents as Exhibit C. The work for each facility and a schedule for all routine tasks is identified for staff. And that same 2-week schedule has the second page of it, that for staff to be able to write down any additional work they completed, so then they can carry that on to a work order in the future. For number 3, as we go into the 2-week schedule and complete, staff is supposed to sign off on all the work they completed and actually plug in the times it took them to complete the task, so that once we have a number of months or about a year, 2 years of accumulated numbers, we are now looking at getting those averages, so we know specifically each task, each section of the facility will take for staff to complete. Now we start quantifying what needs to get done and how long it takes for that specific tasks to get completed. For number 4 on playground safety, we incorporated this into our 2-week schedule because it made perfect sense that staff inspects the playgrounds on a daily basis, and so as their routine schedule, they sign off on it as they go along as part of their daily routine schedule. They check the playground, level the surfacing as necessary, and then move on to their other tasks. And by doing so, they initial on the side, and then the supervisor at the end of each 2 weeks, when they submit the forms, supervisor signs off that all the work has been completed, and then we document it into our system, and then it gets filed. For number 5, staff has been documenting all work order conducted. For commission reports in the past, we used to identify all the work completed, but we did not have corresponding work orders necessarily for every single work that we completed. What audit found for that to be not a very efficient operation. So now, as you will note in the monthly park services report we submit, there is a work order number attached to each work order completed. And this is the success is due to our implementation of our CityWorks work order management system, where we can actually capture that work in a computerized system rather than on small green cards, which was the case. For number 6, staff has been documenting all non-routine tasks, service requests, complaints. This is to standardize into a one centralized location everything that we do. And then with CityWorks being the system we use, we've been able to incorporate all the complaints that come in via telephone calls, emails, the city's CSR system, our vandalism comment report that's online. Once a request or a comment concern comes into play, we capture that into our CityWorks system, and then moving forward, we document the work conducted and then complete and close out the work order. Number 7, the Standards and Operations Manual, which I'll talk a bit briefly later on, it was something we created along with all the managers. It took a number of hours to put together for our staff, and it had been sitting and waiting for implementation. What audit found is, based on the new staffing levels, the recommendation was for us to go and revise that document and then implement it for staff to be used so we can standardize our operation across the board. And we, I'm happy to say, have done that, and in front of you today will be an action item regarding that manual. And lastly, what we have done based on audit's recommendation is we've taken a number of facilities, the 2-week schedules, the routine work, and have captured the work completed, identified the hours it's taken, identified a cost for those specific tasks for those facilities. And at the same time, we've asked our existing contractor to provide pricing for the contractor doing said work based on the exact same schedule for those routine work. And in the comparison analysis, we found that we and the contractor were very close in terms of the dollar figure for said tasks in those parks. And we do now have the documentation based on the 2-week schedules that staff signed off on and based on what the contractor submitted to show that the analysis was based on actual numbers presented. As far as the Standards and Procedures Manual, as I mentioned, the draft manual was completed early in 2007, but it was not implemented. The current version, the draft version that you have in front of you, we have taken the expectation level we had with the staffing we had in 2007 and modified it a bit to fit current standards. One such item would be the afternoon checks in the restroom, for example. On an ongoing basis, we are unable to conduct an afternoon check in our facilities for the restrooms with the new staffing levels and the fact that our staffing is not scheduled or stationed at facilities. They're on a route. They complete their route. If time permits, they are asked to go back to their scheduled sites again to double check. Yet, on an ongoing basis, it is not a possibility. So the modified version of our standard is if staff has the time at the end of the day to go back for their afternoon checks. Doesn't apply for weekends because we are looking at staffing the weekend with ample hourly staff that they can go and conduct afternoon checks. But for the regular week, afternoon checks is one that we had to somewhat reduce our level of standard given our resources available. This manual will be a living document. We'll definitely have to modify it as we go forward. If we have different and more efficient ways of conducting business, we're going to update it as necessary. It is designed to establish minimum standards. What we're able to do above and beyond this will be great. Some of our staff that have their respective parks and take very good pride of it, you will note they would put in additional frequencies at those sites, which we capture in the work order system, and we show it to you as a work order, given the fact that the standard is one thing, above and beyond gets captured into a work order system. And this is to be a communication tool to standardize the operations. What we do in Section 3 parks would be the same standards as what we do in Section 1 and Section 2 parks. And at the same time, this is going to be used as an excellent tool for training the staff because it identifies step by step what they would have to do to get to that expected level of standard for that specific task. And also, it covers a wide area of park maintenance operations, including general park maintenance, restroom maintenance, hardscape, playgrounds, shrub and tree planting and maintenance, flower planting, turf installation, sports facilities, irrigation maintenance, vehicle care, and so on. And at this time, we are asking Commission to give us, we have two actions. One is to motion to note and file the report. And second, we're asking for Commission's feedback regarding the Standards and Procedures Manual, direction, if you'd like to make any additions, changes, and would like to start implementing with our field staff, but we would like some direction from Commission as to process.
Great. Thank you for that. Before we get into the Commission comments, I think that any internal audit and any summary of recommendations is a good thing, and it's positive. So identifying the problems and offering solutions is a good thing. So we can only benefit from that. Having said that, does any of my fellow commissioners have any questions? Please.
If you can give us an idea about the vandalism problems we're facing or the accidents we have on hand at this time, or complaints, like, so we know where what we're facing at this time.
Certainly. I can name, Commissioner Calfine, I can name the last few requests and complaints that we had received. For one, when we have vandalized area that we haven't noticed, for example, graffiti, we get those complaints from the community and saying, hey, this is an area of graffiti that you have missed, and we make sure we address it almost within 24 hours. That is our standard, to remove graffiti from specific locations within a 24-hour period. At times, we get a complaint about, let's say, the turf hasn't been mowed for about a couple of weeks. It's on a 2-week cycle. We have it on our schedule to be mowed. We get the complaint, and we make sure that it gets done as scheduled, even if we had missed it or the staff had been out. Vandalism, I mean, it does occur. For example, the last couple of weeks we've been experiencing with vandalism in terms of theft of our backflow devices. They're a little bit costly, and so the public someone has figured out that those things are worth a little bit of money. Now we're having backflows go missing. We've had it at a couple of facilities, New York Park, Oakmont View, and we are having staff now enclose them into more of a cage to keep it more secure. Those are the types of issues that we receive. A lot of it is calls about, we get complaints about noise in the park, barbecuing in the park, things at times that we don't have control over, but the items that we do have control over, we identify and we address immediately. And those that we don't, we contact the resident back and inform them of our abilities and what we're able to, what kind of actions we can take. and try to satisfy the residents' concern with our comments.
Thank you.
Questions? No. You have questions? Yes.
How do you engage the public or volunteer groups, like for planting flowers or general maintenance? Do you engage the public at all? I know it can't be, for certain thing, but how do you involve them, people who want to help?
Great. Commissioner Fuad, we do have at times community organizations that contact our department and ask us to see if we have a project for the community, for their organization to help us out with. We've done so in the past, planting projects or cleanup projects, and we are open to community organizations reaching out to our department and asking for a project they can complete. We've done scout troop projects, and the elementary school has helped us with planting flowers at City Hall some time ago. So we are open for those volunteer groups that want to come in and do so, but more on a project base rather than ongoing maintenance, because ongoing maintenance, our experience has been, one point in time, we have to take it, step back forward, and take on the challenge.
Yes. President Pro Tem Khan, Commissioner Fuad, if I could expand on that a little bit. We do have a volunteer safety patrol program, which includes a hiking unit, a bicycle unit, and a river unit to help us monitor the Riverwalk project, which is difficult because it's way out of the way of any normal route that we take in monitoring and maintaining our parks. So we try to utilize that to help us provide some semblance of monitoring the parks and the way people are using the parks and the degree to which people are complying with park rules and regulations. The Volunteer Safety Patrol is primarily in the wilderness parks above Brand, the sports complex, or Duke-Majan. We had a meeting with our police department just last week, Mr. Sturdivant and I, to talk about the feasibility of developing a park ambassador program, where the idea would be to tap into active neighborhood residents, for example, residents that participate in the neighborhood watch groups, to see if they would be interested and willing to also monitor the parks, maybe wearing a vest or shirts that identify them as official park volunteers, and all they would do is provide basic information to any of the park patrons, and or ensure that the persons that are supposed to have permits, or if anyone is not following the rules, simply to call it in so that could be followed up. But we're just now beginning to look into a park ambassadors, which is kind of an extension of the Volunteer Safety Patrol program. But we are trying to make a concerted effort to make better utilization of community volunteers, especially because staff resources are a lot less than they were 3 years ago because of budget cuts. So we don't have as much staff available to help patrol monitor the parks. For example, our park ranger program was cut 3 years ago, and that was their primary responsibility. So we are trying to tap into the resource of community volunteers, and we hope to be doing more of that.
And I just have one very minor typo on the public playground safety daily checklist.
Mm-hmm.
Item 3, you have chips, mulch, a sand. I mean, and sand or sand.
Do you have the actual page, Commissioner?
Yeah, that's right.
I will make that correction. Thank you.
I did have a couple questions for you as well. In terms of the checklist, when your staff is going out there, is there a physical sheet, like a checklist they're taking with them? Or are you saying this is a checklist that they look at or that they're to remember? I mean, is there a physical sheet?
Commissioner Khan, if you look on the Exhibit C, which is, I believe, page E6, which is exhibits following the standards and manual, the page there, it says back. That is the back of the actual work 2-week schedule. What we've identified on that sheet is the items that they have to look for on a daily basis. It lists all the major tasks, major things to look for in more of a summarized format. So they do have this list for them to check for when they go to the play facility and they have the 2-week schedule. They have that information handy for them to review and make sure they've checked on those items.
So they're literally checking a box.
They're not checking this box, Commissioner. On the front, if there is any deficiency in any of those areas that they're able to address, for example, if the surfacing is not level, they are tasked to complete that task, and then they check it off as if they've taken care of it. And if it's something they're not able to address at the time, they complete a work order and put in a request for, let's say, additional wood chips, items that show wear and tear, loose bolts, and then we get our facility staff and or our supervisors to get out there and address the problem that may be.
I went back to going back to the first part of your presentation in terms of the summary of recommendations, and like I mentioned earlier, I thought it was very good. The first item I did have a question about, and then I wanted to talk about just budgeting on some of these items. Sure. The first one, it says that to enforce the landscape maintenance contract with this third party to do a weekly schedule. And then I see in your completed, it said staff has created a schedule that the contractor submits along with the monthly invoicing. So is that a weekly schedule that he's submitting?
Correct. The way we have our landscape sites set up, Commissioner Khan, is not every site gets visited on a weekly basis. Some are weekly, some are bi-weekly, and then we have some facilities that get visited on a monthly basis by the contractor. That is based on the frequency set forth in our specifications. With that, what we have the contractor provide us is a set schedule for each one of those facilities based on whether they are weekly, monthly, or bi-weekly. And they submit that once a month. That this was the schedule, and then whatever they have completed, they sign off on. Our contract administrator, manager, reviews that it has been conducted, and then we get to file that report saying, yes, it's done, and then we issue the invoice for processing.
Okay, so it's addressing that item
it
as
is
it relates
addressing
to
that
weekly
item,
and not monthly.
Correct. They do submit the document on a monthly basis where it breaks it down, whether it's a weekly task, some bi-weekly task, and or a monthly task.
Okay. Then the other question I had is related more to the budget. So when people are going out to do inspections to see, for instance, item number 4, when it talks about, say, playground equipment and things like that, and they're coming back and they're noticing that this playground or piece of equipment is badly worn. They come back to you with that information, then do you start allocating resources in the budget towards that, or what do you do with that information?
That is an excellent question, President Pro Tem Khan. On a daily basis, when we found little issues to address, for example, items that could be repaired, we work with our facilities services folks, facilities maintenance, and we put in a work order and we get it done immediately. For items that require major renovation or replacement of a play equipment, given that it is at a point where it cannot be accommodated in the field any longer, we work with our capital project folks, Emil Tatavosian staff, to start scheduling that for replacement. We also conduct, along with our facility services staff, more of an annual inspection, more of an audit of the play equipment. That's the area where we look for the major deficiencies to try and identify what kind of lifespan that play equipment still has and look at budgeting for future replacement. So that would be the ideal process for us to go forward, and that is the current practice.
Great. Did you want to say something, Mr. Durant?
Yes, Commissioner or President Pro Tem Khan, members of the Commission. We happen to have 6 playground replacement projects in progress right now, which Mr. Toro could expand on when he gives his presentation. He's going to be highlighting 2 playground projects, but we have 4 more on the heels of the 2 that we're getting ready to begin construction on. So we are making a concerted effort to make sure that our oldest equipment is always being replaced on a regular cycle. So I just wanted to make that point.
Okay. Was there any other questions the Commission had?
There is one other thing I was going to suggest, getting back to Commissioner Kalfayan's comment. We do incur vandalism on a weekly basis. Every Monday morning I receive a report from COCO staff on all of the vandalism incidences for that weekend, and it's mainly on the weekends because that's when the greatest number of persons are out using the parks and abusing the parks. If you'd like, we can do a summary report and provide you with information on the number of vandalism incidents year ending last year and then to date this year, and with examples of what's very typical. For example, the restrooms are very vulnerable, and it's very common for us to get to work Monday morning and find restroom walls graffitied with markers, mirrors broken and cracked, panel doors ripped off the hinges. Those are things that are very common. Graffiti on picnic benches, or carved into wood components. So we can give you a report so you can get an idea of just how much vandalism our parks incur, and then know that hopefully to you and most people it's not that noticeable, because we are able to address most vandalism very, very quickly. And then to give you an idea of what that costs us, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars a year as part of our budget has to go towards vandalism, addressing vandalism and making repairs. So we can provide that for you at the next commission meeting.
How can we control it if it's the same reputation every Monday, it's same place, same location?
If I may address Commissioner Kalfaya, at times when we notice the frequency and the impact in a specific facility at a number that we can't control. For example, Car Park was a great experience several months back where we had a very heavy graffiti vandalism at that facility on Friday. Had it cleaned out Saturday night was the same. Had it cleaned out Sunday night was the same. When we notice that there is a trend of it occurring on a daily basis and more frequently at that specific site, we work with PD to try and catch the individuals, maybe do a sting operation and try and have police in regular uniform clothes be on task, on hand to try and frequent the facilities more. When we had those increased vandalism at Fremont Park, for example, we had PD patrol the area more frequently, so it disperses those individuals. At times we've had PD patrol those areas and they've caught people graffitiing, so they go through the process of prosecution and having to pay back the damage to the city. So we take measures to try to control it, but you're absolutely correct that we don't have much control in that area.
Can we use cameras in this kind of incidents?
Commissioner Goffin, yes, there is a possibility for camera installations at certain facilities, and I believe Emil's staff and projects typically do have that as part of the overall concept when the new parks are being designed. As you could imagine, to get cameras into facilities can be quite costly, not for the camera, but for the cabling and the wiring. And we work with PD on a number of facilities to try and address vandalism and the installation of cameras going forth. Point example, Maple Park, the last renovation. I know Emil's ready to jump on it. We installed cameras in more very strategic locations that help reduce the vandalism. I mean, just the mere fact that someone's watching does deter the vandals away. So wherever possible, yes, we have taken those measures to install cameras to address the potential vandalism for those sites.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you need from us two motions. It looks like a motion A and a motion B. Could we have...
Move A and B together, or?
Yes, you may do so.
Okay.
I'll second them together.
Yeah, great.
And I will take roll call. Commissioners Fod,
Yes.
Kalfaya?
Yes.
Sharkey's absent. Wu?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Khan.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. For clarification, President Pro Tem Khan, would that mean I'm able to take the document and implement in the field for staff for item B?
Item B, yes. The procedures manual?
Yes.
That's correct.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to item 7B, reports for information only at 1, Glendale Youth Alliance, GYA, Summer Youth Employment Program.
Good afternoon. My name is Karina Gregorian. I'm the Community Development Supervisor that oversees the Glendale Youth Alliance. All right. The mission of the Glendale Youth Alliance is to provide, coordinate, and support youth employment activities, efforts, and programs that have a positive impact on Glendale area youth. We all know that jobs change lives, and this holds even more true to the youth of our community. By giving them the skills needed to succeed in the workforce, we're changing their path for their future. In addition, youth are off the streets, they're reducing crime rates, becoming productive members of our workforce, and breaking the cycle of poverty. Unemployment continues to be one of the most pressing issues in America. Having the highest unemployment rate are the youth ages 16 to 24. While the need for employment services is at an all-time high, the funding for these programs have shrunk significantly through the years. GYA has a unique understanding and experience in serving the youth of our community as a 501c3 nonprofit organization and a partnership between government, business, and community. GYA has provided employment and training services to over 7,000 youth since 1993. GYA currently operates 5 programs, 2 of which are revenue-generating enterprise programs. Private property owners can hire the youth to do brush clearance, hillside weed abatement, and so forth. And we bill the customer for the youth wages. The second, Glendale Resource for Employment and Training, is very similar to an employment agency. Again, work sites, employers can hire the youth, and we bill for an hourly rate to the employer. We have 3 grant-operated programs currently. Team program is focused on serving high school seniors. Our EIP Employment Incentive Program serves youth ages 18 to 24. And the incentive is that the grant pays for the initial 200 hours of training. So it's a huge benefit to the employer and covers workers' comp, payroll taxes, the whole 9 yards. And our Summer Youth Employment Training Program. Over 700 applications were submitted for summer employment. Due to the popularity of this program, we do not go in the community to recruit youth. It's just based on word of mouth, but it is publicized on our website and other sources. So 700 youth did come in to apply for the programs. Due to limited funding, we were only able to serve 151 youth, only 22% of the youth that applied. 48 youth were served in our summer brush program, and 103 youth were served in our county summer program. Just to give you a little bit more information, the summer brush program is funded by GWP, Public Works, Fire Department, and Community Services and Parks. It provides the youngest and unskilled youth, ages 14 to 16, a first-time job experience on closely supervised teams. They spent 6 weeks removing overgrown brush on 30 parcels of city-owned land, reducing the risk of fires on city hillsides. The older youth who already possess some basic skills are placed to work in local hospitals, nonprofit organizations, retail outlets, almost any kind of industry you can think of. The picture of the 48 youth that participated in our summer brush program this year. Some of the services we offer are client-centered, goal-oriented case management, paid work experience, training, scholarships, supportive services such as bus tokens, food, work attire, and referrals to other resources through the community partners. As you can imagine, working with youth, there's a variety of needs and services that we partner with and provide to the youth and families. Most of the youth we serve in our program are low-income, at-risk youth, ages 14 to 24. We give priority to youth that are homeless, disabled, foster, or are on probation. Youth that are pregnant or parenting are also given priority. Sole providers in the household. Most of the youth in our program do speak English as a second language, and over 60% of the youth indicate that they heard about GYA through word of mouth. Friends, siblings, referrals. Some of the highlights for the 2012-13 fiscal year: on February 7, 2013, GYA was awarded the 16th Annual Community Appreciation Award by the Northwest Glendale Lions Club. This award was in recognition for the significant contribution GYA has made in the Glendale community. This year, in partnership with the City of Glendale Public Works Department, GYA youth planted approximately 200 trees within the Glendale community that were damaged by the December 2011 windstorms. In partnership with the City of Glendale Community Services and Parks Department, GYA youth participated in the construction of new trails on public hillsides at the sports complex. In addition, for the second consecutive year, Glendale Youth Alliance was selected as a Payless Gift Shoes for Kids partner. 75 merchandise certificates were provided to the youth of our program. Some other accomplishments for this year: 350 youth were served and provided work experience. Mentorship, guidance, and training was provided to 100% of the youth that were enrolled in our program. 99% of the youth completed their planned services, which includes work experience, training, and other assessments. Over 300 youth received pre-employment training. 87 youth were hired in permanent employment. 150 youth received supportive services, and 75 youth received Payless Shoes vouchers. Some of the challenges are the uncertainty in grant fundings on the federal, state, and county levels, increase in operational expenditures, need for employment. We had a waiting list of over 500 youth this year that applied for the program, but we were unable to serve due to limited funding. So as the need increases over the years, our funding unfortunately decreases. And we've been fortunate enough to have the support of our community to assist with fundraising efforts and other ventures. But there's definitely a great need in our community for employment opportunities. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer it.
Any questions?
If I may, where does your main contribution come from, the funding?
Our grant funding is mainly from the federal government Workforce Investment Act. Two of our programs are revenue-generating enterprise programs, so they generate about 50% of our budget. But our major grant is the Workforce Investment Act.
So half is private funding and half is public funding?
Yes.
And your overall budget's $2.5 million or what?
Approximately $2 million.
$2 million, okay.
Good job.
Thank you.
I did have a question. The youth is defined as between 14 and 24. Is that what youth is?
Yes.
And is it all paid? Is it all, I mean,
Yes.
do you have any non-paid participants?
No, all the youth in our programs are paid an hourly wage
Okay.
for the work that they do.
Is there any interest in non-paid youth experience that they may be able to use for their high school or college?
We do get a lot of youth that are interested in doing volunteer opportunities. Unfortunately, we have limited staff and aren't able to provide those services, but we do refer them to other organizations that do accept volunteers.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much for your report.
Thank you.
What's next?
Item 7B2, Citywide Sports Annual Report.
Good afternoon, President Pro Tem Khan and members of the Commission. I'm Gabrielle Golia, and I am the supervisor at the Glendale Sports Complex. The Sports Complex staff operates the Glendale Sports Complex as well as all citywide sports, the related programs, and we also oversee the aquatics wading pool programs, Pacific Park Pool, and the Vertigo Skate Park. Today I'm here to talk with you about just the citywide sports aspect of our operations. Citywide sports in Glendale. Tennis vendor contracts over 3 of our tennis courts. 2 are city-owned and 1 is the school districts at Glendale High School. The sports contract classes that relate specifically to sports programs that our complex operates. And I'll touch a little bit on the adult basketball program because the revenue from that program comes into this account. At the sports complex, we have 2 full-time staff operated for citywide sports. 1 is out of the general fund and 1 is out of the enterprise fund. In the general fund, we also have an hourly custodial worker who works at the sports complex and helps to maintain the facility. And in the enterprise fund, we have 2 office support staff as well as our recreation leaders. And these are the people who help support citywide recreation programs. We do have a number of contract classes, including tennis for youth and adults, soccer for youth, adult volleyball, youth volleyball, and adult badminton. Our most popular program is the Kids Love Soccer program, and that is a program for kids ages 3.5 to 7 years old, followed by our tennis programs for both the youth and adults. Facility rentals are definitely the bulk of the work that we do out of citywide sports. This past year, in the 2012-13 fiscal year, the staff put together permits for 27,197.5 hours of permitted time. Most of that is for the approved community youth groups. Those are the groups that serve the youth in Glendale. They have to be a nonprofit organization, and they have to serve at least 60% of Glendale youth. So they can serve a little bit outside of Glendale, but the majority has to be Glendale youth. Those groups do get the fields for free, those 13 citywide fields for free during their season of sport. So baseball and softball is during the spring, and soccer is during the fall. Those youth groups primarily are made up of the Glendale Little Leagues, Crescenta Sports Association, Babe Ruth Baseball, and AYSO Soccer. When the fields are not used by the youth groups, which is, those hours are few and far between, but when they're not used by the youth groups, we do reserve them out for private groups. And the revenue last year for the rentals was $56,194. We operate the tennis contracts at Glorietta and Fremont tennis courts. We do use the Glendale High tennis courts. We started using those when the Central Park tennis courts were removed for the new adult recreation center. We don't actually generate any revenue at the Glendale High tennis courts because we can only use them during the after-school hours, and there are no lights at the moment. So it's a very limited time on those courts. But last year, we did generate $39,150 in revenue on the other two facilities. The basketball program is actually operated out of our adult sports leagues, so our numbers for that are included in our adult sports leagues report. But the money, because that program is not operated at the sports complex, it's at the high schools and the community center basketball courts, that funding does get deposited into this account, and we generated $38,300 in sports for basketball alone. This past year, we did see an operational loss in the citywide sports account of $29,030. The previous year, we showed a profit of about $86,000. This loss really was due to a couple of factors. One is that we did transfer the full-time staff, one of the full-time staff that was in the general fund, we transferred it into the enterprise fund this year. And that really made a big impact on the costs going up. Our revenues really didn't show a huge loss, but the expenses went up. And we also installed some new fencing and new batting cage netting at two of our facilities. So those were expenses that really hit the expenditure portion of our account pretty hard. The department does realize a profit in the enterprise fund in other program areas. The sports complex itself does operate in a profit, and so the profits from the sports complex as a whole do help to support programs such as the citywide sports account. I'd be happy to answer any questions for you.
Questions?
Can you please turn on your mic?
What kind of the facility is used by what kind of what range of they're on a low income range, or it doesn't matter? How is it?
The 13 facilities, the citywide sports, those fields are reserved to the youth groups, and the youth groups, it's all members of the community, but they have to serve youth. They have to serve only the youth, and it has to be at least 60% residents. So it just depends on the location in Glendale as to the demographics of the group itself. But all of those groups receive the fields for free, and we put the lights on for free for them. So it's all of Glendale.
So all the programs are made to serve the public?
Yes, yes. On the 13 citywide fields, those rentals are for all of Glendale.
But you lost... prior to last year, in which field did you lose from 46,000 to 39,000 you were reporting?
Yeah, Ralph, so how do you generate revenue on those fields to the non-youth groups?
We rent the fields out to first come, first serve after the youth groups have completed giving us all their requests. So, if, for instance, right now we're in the AYSO soccer season. They have requested all the time that they need. Any time that's left over, we reserve out first come, first serve to private groups. So it's might be local or it might be actually a non-Glendale resident once the residents receive their field time.
Right. And that's how we make income when we're able to rent the fields out when the youth groups are not using the fields, which is not a lot of the time. But the City Council has a long-standing policy that it does not want to be charging the approved youth groups for the use of the public fields. We were, during the budget development process 2 or 3 years ago, we proposed to try to recoup some of our utility costs, which could be a couple of $100,000 a year to keep the lights on for all of our fields, to pass some of that a cost or expense on to the youth groups, and the council didn't want to do that. So,
When you add more staff and you have more expenses, you're putting fences and so on, can't you raise the income, charge?
As Gabrielle alluded to, in our enterprise fund, and the enterprise fund is our program where we charge for certain services, and the revenue that we get is called the enterprise fund. We probably have 14 or 15 enterprise accounts, 14 or 15 different programs that we charge fees for. Half of them lose money or break even, and the other half make money. So at the end of the year, those that make money are able to offset those that lose money. So far we've been pretty fortunate that at the end of the year, there's been more revenue coming in than losses. But I'll give you an example. The sports complex probably makes a profit of a couple of $100,000 a year, but then the Civic Auditorium currently loses about $100,000 or $150,000 a year. So they offset each other. That's kind of the way that enterprise fund works.
So we're happy.
We're okay. We're okay.
Good job.
But we're always looking for new ways to increase that revenue. For example, a couple of months ago, we approved an indoor soccer program, and we projected that with an indoor soccer program, we could make as much as $100,000 a year. We're currently working on a batting cage project to install a 6-bay batting cage at the sports complex, and we feel that we can make pretty good revenue with the batting cage as well. So the artificial turf project at Pacific Park that just started construction, we will be able to rent that artificial turf probably 1/3 more than we are currently able to, because the natural turf gets so beat up. So that will increase our revenue situation. So we're working on a lot of projects that will improve our revenue generation.
Thank you.
I just had one question on the chart about it shows the hours of usage. Mm-hmm. There's available and then there's actual used. Can you explain the differences in the hours? You're saying you're short of time. This shows a lot of unused time, but I'm sure that can't be the case. So how do these relate?
These are possible permitted hours from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Sunday. The prime time hours are heavily used. Those are the hours that we don't have time left. That's pretty much from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. on a lit field, Monday through Friday, and all day on Saturday and Sunday. It's very difficult to break those out in our system, what's prime time and what's night only, but this chart includes all available time on a field of open hours. The fields do sit empty, and not empty. They're used by our maintenance. Maintenance is working very hard during those hours to mow the fields and line the fields and get them ready for our use in the evening. But pretty much right now, AYSO uses the field from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. daily.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much for your report.
Thank you.
Item 7B3, Pacific Community Center Annual Report.
Good afternoon, President Pro Tem Khan, members of Commission, Park staff. My name is Walter Alvarez. I am the Community Services Supervisor at the Pacific Community Center, and I'm here to give my yearly report today. I'm going to go ahead and do a presentation as we go along here, so that way you get an idea of what I'm presenting. Pacific Community Center is located at 501 South Pacific Avenue. It's between Colorado and San Fernando. It's a wonderful facility that's been in operation for 10 years already. This September will be its 10th year anniversary. It's a complex that's joined by 3 buildings comprised of the Glendale Library, the Community Center, as well as Pacific Edison Elementary. So it is a handful facility. It's constantly used. It's year-round, every day, every evening. The hours of operation are Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and then on Friday and Saturdays we run from 9 to 5 p.m. But we do extend hours beyond that based on rental needs in the community. We're a full-service center. We provide detailed planning we do detailed event planning for rentals, event layouts, advise logistical planning, operation and personnel available during events. We offer drop-in programs to the community, as well as we supervise a lot of the groups that are there for rentals, outdoors and indoors, whether little leagues, the soccer leagues as well. And we run various programs inside the building, including Tot Time, which is drop-in programs for young children, our drop-in gym services, which are comprised of basketball and volleyball for adults, as well as young kids on the basketball, and various contract classes throughout the year, life learning classes for seniors and adults. And also we do some of the general drop-in activities like memberships for people to be members of the community center. They are required to have a pass, so they pay a yearly fee of $25 per year for membership, as well as for youth. Youth are free-based. We don't charge them for any services, and they have full access to the facility, which includes the gymnasium for drop-in services. We have the computer lab and recreation room available for them, too, if they want to go in there and make use of the recreation center. And we have 5 multi-purpose use rooms that are available for rental purposes, for corporate meetings, just anyone in the community, nonprofits looking for a facility space to rent for meetings, to run meetings. We have those rooms available, as well as the facility hosts various citywide events throughout the year, sponsorships, events, partnership events with other nonprofits. Also is something we provide the community. Again, it is a wonderful full-service facility. Just to give you an idea, we have an outdoor terrace on the top floor. We also have what's called our Oak Room. Again, that's used also for meals, because we do run a meals program there at our site. It's one of our satellite sites that comes on site and drops meals for the seniors. And our Sycamore Room, which is usually requested for meetings, board meeting type services. That's one of them. On top where you have the pool table, that's our recreation room. Again, there are certain hours we limit for adult use during the day. It tends to be from 9 to 2 p.m. We exclusively let the adults make use of the room, and after 2 p.m., all the way from 2 to 7, we let the young kids come in and make use of the room. We have a pool table, ping pong table, as well as a foosball table in the rec room. We have a full-size gym. Towards the bottom, you'll see that full-size gym. It's 4 courts. It's actually 2 half courts that run, but then when we have big events, such as schools that may rent the facility for their sports programs, we separate that wall and they run a full court game on one side. But again, that gym divides in half with a partition wall, and that's utilized by the school district during the day hours from 9 to 3. That's where the school utilizes what we refer to as Gym B, the school side, and we run our programs on the Gym A side during the day. We have the arts and crafts rooms, arts and science room, Red Bud room, which is usually used for small gatherings, usually 50 or less people. Again, example would be a small quinceañera or baptism or baby shower. People usually rent for those purposes. And we have our conference room. Again, it's more, I refer to our executive board meeting room, which is a 9-member table. People could sit there and enjoy that space. One of our more luxurious looking rooms, if I could say. Outdoor facilities includes a soccer field, 2 picnic shelters, a baseball field, basketball court, lunch shelter, and a playground with a water feature, and then our outside terrace, which is the one that's on top of located on the top of the second floor of the building. The picnic shelter exclusively used for outdoor events. Obviously, they have kids' parties tend to be the favorite request there, children's parties, and through our contracts with various vendors, who allow the rental of jumpers, that's exclusively the location where they set up those jumpers. Our Little League field, and then we have our multi-purpose court field that's rented to anyone, any adults, adult leagues looking to practice, or private parties looking to do their picnic, their softball games, or their soccer games. Again, those are available for use throughout the year. If I could just give you a number of some of the ideas of the rentals that we generated this past year, we generated about 665 permits this past year. Out of those permits, those were indoors. 501 were indoor permits. 297 of those were non-revenue generating permits, which are city-sponsored permits. 204 were revenue generating. And then we also had a total of 164 outdoor permits on the soccer field as well as the baseball field. 49 were non-revenue, and 115 were revenue generating. What I refer to non-revenue generating is whether it's city-sponsored, it's the school district using it, or the library making use of the facilities. Because we are a partner agency within that space, we kind of just utilize the facility. We also sell bus passes for seniors as well as disabled adults at our site, and we do that as a service through drop-in. People could just come in and purchase their bus passes. Again, going back to some of the special events we host throughout the year, Cesar Chavez event, the National Night Out, Glendale Health Festival, the Glendale Healthy Kids Expo, National Charities League Sale, GUSD State of the School Breakfast event, Senator Lou's Pathways Conference, and this past year we hosted the Earth Day event along with Integrated Waste. Again, these are through collaborations with all these agencies. We kind of provide a lot of the logistical support for these events. As long as we stay within the parameters of our operating hours and not incurring additional costs, it's a great partnership. It's a win-win for all those involved as well as the whole community. Just to give you a general idea of the numbers we generate throughout the year, our rec room generates 35 participants per day on average. Our drop-in generates about 56 participants per day. Our exercise senior classes, about 50. Bus pass averages 20 sales per month. Our contract classes generate 361 sales a year for adults and youth. And then we also run our Cool Days programs, which is an impressive program. It's my first summer being there, actually. It's just 1 year. I'm under 1 year. And we serve 1,247 kids for the entire year. A great program. Our staff, Norma Valles, that runs a great day camp program there, and as well as Melanie Amasaspian, who is my assistant, coordinating a lot of the rentals throughout the year. With that, I'd just like to give you a few ideas of the pictures, some of the events we've done. Here is the Cesar Chavez event on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, we have our most recent event, which was National Night Out, which we had approximately 250 people that attended that evening. It was a great event. The State of the School event is set up on the left-hand side. Again, very impressive facility because of its size. It could accommodate about 500 people in there with all the tables set up. On the right-hand side, we have Earth Day event with some of the kids enjoying the activities. Again, just to give you an idea of the Tot Time program, drop-in basketball, volleyball, lifelong learning, recreation classes, Cool Days camps, and our recreation room. These are some of the kids making use of our facility, and we also have a climbing wall that we rent out per year, throughout the year. We generate about 44 permits for the climbing wall. 20 of those are revenue generating. The other ones are just co-sponsorship through the city. And what's in the horizons for Pacific Community Center? Well, this September 7th, I'm going to go ahead and pass out some flyers to personally invite the commission members to come out to this September 7th event, which marks the 10th anniversary of Pacific Community Center. So we'll be kind of showcasing the community. Some people do attend and said, what do you guys do here? It's an amazing facility. Overall, I'm really impressed, and I really enjoyed working there this past year. So definitely come out, get a better clue, better idea of what we do. A lot of hands-on demonstrations about the classes we offer, the events we provide, and just kind of get an opportunity for the community to ask questions about the services we offer there. And again, on the horizon is the multi-purpose turf project that's going to come up in December. I'm looking forward to that, and I'm thinking it will definitely generate more revenue and more rentals. So that completes my presentation. If there's any questions, I'll gladly answer them.
Looks like you have a beautiful facility. And how did you get all those special events to come in and rent the place? What was the motive?
The facility. The facility
How did they
itself.
find out about it? I mean,
Again, it's something that through the partnerships, people usually want to partner with the city. The nonprofits know of the existence of this facility, and word of mouth. I mean, it's just the concept of the facility, the way it's made, it's structured, and the way it's set up. It's ideal for large events. So it tends to be over the 10 years, just word of mouth. People will contact us and say we'd like to partner with the city. So it's always that way.
what's the capacity now? And what's the percentage that how many days a year we have it rented and how many days we have it empty?
We pretty much, Sunday I would say is the only day, and even then we just have rental this past Sunday. So again, it's based on community needs, rental needs of private parties. I would say it's almost a 9 to 10, 12-hour operation throughout there except for Saturday and Sunday.
Like my suggestion is to make it more known to the community so they can utilize it and we can get more income.
That is my goal this coming year. I'm looking to outreach to some of the faith-based organizations. I'm currently working with one that is looking to make it a year-round kind of faith-based services on Sundays because, again, that is the gap where I noticed that there's that one extra day where we could fit in. But for the most part, like I said, it is a 12-hour operation throughout that facility nonstop.
Great. Well, thank you for your annual report. Nicely done.
Thank you.
As we sail along, what's next on the agenda?
Item 7B4, monthly activity reports at Aip Park Services.
President Pro Tem Khan, members of Commission, what you have in front of you would be the monthly activity report for Park Services. For the month of July, we have completed 143 work orders, of which 87 were gardeners, 20 work orders for pesticide application, and about 36 work orders for irrigation. And as is the case, like every month, we'd like to highlight some of those in our presentation PowerPoint. First project I'd like to highlight was at the Civic Auditorium. What we noticed were a lack of watering in some areas, and we found that there were 2 old valves that were buried between 2 palm trees that were not providing ample water to the areas that needed them. And so planting was constantly dying and not surviving. We had irrigation staff repair those 2 valves, and once they completed, we started a planting project. The planting project was right along Glendale Avenue, I should say no, Verdugo Avenue on the east side of the parking lot. There's one area, and then on the north side of the parking lot was you're exiting the parking structure. Civic was the other area where we conducted some of the landscaping. And as you note when you drive it the next time, you should see the completed project. This is on the north end as you're exiting the Civic Auditorium structure where staff planted some natural drought-tolerant planting. And of course, while they were planting and we noticed irrigation wasn't there, we had to hand water for a brief while to make sure that we don't kill the plants. And as the project was completed, we have some beautiful landscaping along both sides of the parking structure. Next is at Dunsmore Park. If you are familiar with Dunsmore Park, this area is right along Dunsmore Avenue when you're entering the upper parking lot, right below the community center. This area was fairly dead. We weren't able to grow grass in this area. And what staff wanted to do was go in there, remove all the dead turf areas, mulch it, and actually plant some drought-tolerant planting along the bedrock the river bedrock over here, and it actually gave it a nice, natural, beautiful feeling. Thank you, Iris. And again, this is the area, just the area looking at right down there would be the lower parking lot of the facility. At New York Park, this is a project in conjunction with our capital project folks. Your question earlier, President Pro Tem Khan, regarding playground structures. New York Park was one of the playgrounds that was somewhat deficient, and we needed to have it replaced. You will hear probably from, I'm not sure if Sean has a presentation, it is on schedule to be replaced. As far as cost savings, we looked at the overall project between this one and Dunsmore and identified an opportunity that if we work together with our staff going in there and removing the existing playground, there will be some savings to the capital project budget, so that way we can use that and give a nicer overall playground feature being installed for the community. As such, we had staff go in there with our heavy equipment in removing the existing structure at New York Park. And of course, with all the footings and the posts that had to be replaced and hauled away. And there is a sign identifying the upcoming playground replacement for this facility. And as it stands currently, that site looks fairly bare. But the project is moving along, and we'll see a new one installed in the near future. Over at City Hall, as you may have noticed as you walked through the plaza here, we typically do renovations of the planting. We replant the area, landscaping, and every year Chris Peplo's folks, I should say more quarterly, put in new planting, new flowers to kind of give it a nicer look. And going forward, we'll probably look at drought-tolerant planting in these areas as well, so we can reduce the cost of putting flowering plants, which require more frequent replacement. And you can notice the flowers actually now blooming better. What you see there, probably in those little flowers, have expanded to twice the size. It really looks very nice, and walking through as City Hall being the key area for most of our community visiting City Hall, we want to make sure it looks very nice. Central Park, now mind you, this is a very old picture. This is the best we could come up with from the Google Maps. This is pre-construction. It looks a lot nicer now if you have an aerial shot. We did two projects at this site. One of them was, if you know the area where the Tai Chi, folks actually practice their Tai Chi just south of the library, we had to remove the turf in that area to help with the homeless issues we were having, and we DG'd the area. Once we removed the turf, what we noticed were the trees were sitting just in the DG bare without any surroundings borders. A couple of them had actual concrete bases, boxed them in, but the other ones did not. So we took on this project of installing those wood timbers with the staff, kind of trenching, placing the wood timbers, and mulching the trees. So now they have a very nice, pleasing look. This is it was an extensive project. It took a lot of effort, coordination by the staff to get done, but we did it all with in-house staff. You see the bordering already placed with one of the trees here. And there were approximately 4 to 6 trees, I believe, that we had to enclose in the timber boxes. And this is the final look. This is looking towards the alleyway, and these are the other trees. So ultimately, he gave it a much natural, pleasing look to the area, and the mulch is going to help with the tree because it holds the moisture and provides the tree with better nutrients. The same time, over at the ARC, was the Korean Monument project that we helped with the installation of. This is a valve that was a lot lower than the other 4 valves in that area. So we had to raise this valve to give it more of an even surface. So when we do install the new sod, we can have a much better area and nothing will be flat, and puddling would be an issue. So going forward, staff had to remove a significant area of the sod around it, and the trenching and getting the area ready for the monument to be installed. After the sod was removed, obviously staff had to move the irrigation to make sure there is ample coverage and provide for installation of DG. The same type of timber as you see we used around the boxes, we used around the monument to keep the DG in place and separate the turf setting from the DG setting from the monument. And this was once our job was completed, and then ultimately the actual monument as it stands currently. Maryland lot, this is the location where the Maryland mini park will be pretty soon constructed. But over the years, every 6 months or so, we tend to go in and do some major shrub clearance. As you can imagine, after a while, with not having any maintenance, it can get pretty, ugly, and the neighbor will complain. So we had a crew go in there, a crew of a significant amount of guys for half a day, to go in and address both exterior and the interior of the property, along the fence lines, all the shrubs. You can see some of the weeds have grown, half a human's height, 4 or 5 feet tall, some of them. We did a lot of litter pickup, a lot of the brush clearance to drop the brush down to just the dirt, and with some heavy equipment had to haul it all away. And ultimately, when we were done, we had staff clean the perimeter fencing so the residents will have more pleasing walkway until the park is constructed, and then I had to hose it down to keep the dust down. And once we were done with the facility, it had a much more presentable look to it. And we're hoping the next time around we'll have a beautiful park in this location, not have to go in there and do the weed clearance. And this is staff wetting the facility down. And this is the exterior perimeter, what it would look like after we were finished. That concludes my presentation for today. If there are any questions from Commission, I'd love to answer them for you.
No, thank you very much for your report.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have item 7B4B, Recreation and Community Services.
Okay, thank you, President Pro Tem Khan, members of the Commission. In your packets, you'll find a monthly activity report for Recreation and Community Services. The Theater in the Park program was presented by Shakespeare by the Sea, a nonprofit organization. They've been producing Shakespeare in the Park for a number of years now in the city of Glendale. This year's event was at Glen Oaks Park. It was held on June 30th with an attendance of 276. It's a really popular event. We've had close to 150, 200 people show up per year, per show. This year there were 276. Hopefully next year we'll get 2 or 3 productions during the summer. This year they went ahead to other park locations in Southern California to expand their services. So hopefully we'll have them come back next year for 2 or 3 productions. But it was a very successful event at Glen Oaks Park, and basically we just provided a few tables and some chairs for the actors, and everything else was self-contained by the group. Cruise night was held July 20th on Brand Boulevard. Planning began in December 2012. This year we worked on a sponsorship strategy. Packets were sent out to 200 local businesses. Employees from 6 departments were part of the Cruise Night Committee. We met once a month. From employees from the Parks Department, Police Department, Fire Department, Management Services, Public Works, and Economic Development. The contract with Mr. Rock and Roll, Brian Byrne, was signed for entertainment and marketing promotions. The event, like I mentioned before, was held July 20th between 5:30 and 10:30. This year, once again, it was held on Brand between Milford and Broadway. The main stage was at Brand and Milford. Last year, we had the stage at Brand and Wilson. This year, we decided to move it back up to Milford. It would be a better location and more centrally located on Brand. We closed Brand and Milford intersection at 9 a.m. for the stage setup, and the entire 5 blocks was closed at 11 a.m. thanks to the police department and, of course, the Park Services staff for barricading Brand, Orange, Maryland, and all the alleyways. We had 243 classic cars on display. Live entertainment by the Safaris. They celebrated the 50th anniversary of Wipeout and the Tokens. The first act came in at 7:30 till about 9, and the second act came in 9 o'clock till 10:30. We had a number of people dancing right by the stage. We had a professional sound company come in. That was a request from last year's Cruise Night Committee to have a sound company come in and provide lights and better sound. Sponsorships, like I mentioned earlier in the meeting, was fully funded by corporate and community sponsorships. We had monetary sponsorships collected, $42,600. car registration fees, $11,105, and we have the in-kind sponsorships estimated at $276,998. I want to publicly thank our sponsors, again, our Downtown Glendale Association, Brand Boulevard of Cars, Glendale Police Officers Association, Glendale Water and Power, LA Credit Union, Jewel City Bowl, Glendale Harley, Whole Foods, ABC7, Dollar King, Pacific Coast Title, New York Life, Carousel Restaurant, Pomona Fairplex, and Travel Media. And then our in-kind sponsors, of course, was our media outlets, Glendale News Press, CV Weekly, Burbank Leader, Toluca Times, Daily News, La Cañada Sun, KRLA, KABC, KFWB. KEarth 101 was there live. They had a live feed starting, I believe it was at 1 o'clock, Super King Markets and Maguire's. All these in-kind sponsors groups, they promoted the event at no cost to us. They started promoting June 15th with ads and with press releases and so on, and especially KEarth. I don't listen to KEarth 101, but in the mornings on my way in, I would listen and I would hear the cruise night promotion and their announcements on cruise night. So I was really happy to hear that. The committee recommendations for Cruise Night 2014, instead of closing Brand at 11 a.m., we would like to close at 10 a.m. We're going to start marketing and use social media campaign in March, a little bit earlier than this year. This year we went out in, everything went out in May. We like to publicize the event in our spring leisure guide, flip book, website, everything starting a couple months earlier. We like to move our community groups to Wilson, move our CSP youth programs back down to Broadway. They were closer to Wilson this year, Wilson and Brand. We'd like to move them back to Broadway and Brand. We would also like to script trophy giveaway. This year we had trophies passed out. We had judging. We had 9 trophies that were given to car owners. What we like to do is have a script and basically make it a little bit more formal when we distribute the trophies. And also we like to have sponsor cutoff dates. Of course, if we get a last-minute sponsor like we did, July 19th at 4:30, someone want the sponsor, we didn't push them away. We went ahead and, ordered a few more supplies to get them in the day of the event. So we were really successful, like with our sponsorships. Kudos to Monique and Patty, who really assisted me. This was my first year organizing the Cruise Night event. So it was really successful, and we had no complaints at all. Entertainment was good. Everyone was happy with the entertainment, the sound, the community groups, the sponsorships. They were all very happy with the event. And for our viewers, for Cruise Night 2014, if you're interested in sponsoring Cruise Night, you can call Monique at 818-548-3813. And, we're going to start fundraising October, November for the event in July. Moving back to our monthly reports for the reservations and events, our Civic Auditorium for the month of July had 15 events. We had a total revenue of $23,460. Indoor soccer program is picking up. Right now we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays booked for private leagues between 6 and 11 o'clock. In September, we're going to have our own city civic soccer league, indoor soccer program. So we have employees working on the league. It's going to run through December, so we're excited about that. It's our first indoor soccer league program. So if anyone's interested, they can go ahead and contact Civic Auditorium for indoor soccer league. The customer service and community centers monthly report, we had a total of 189 revenue permits and 58 non-revenue permits. For the month of July, we had a slight increase from 2012, which is good news. Our total film permit revenue was $6,679 compared to $2,575, which is a 60% increase from last year. Film permits are picking up. Monique, who handles our film permits, she created a brochure with our graphics department. That's going to go out to print hopefully within the next couple of weeks. We'll bring the brochure to commission next month. It's a really nice brochure, and we're going to go ahead and meet the location managers and provide them the brochure and all of our facilities available for food permits. And the total monthly revenue for park and community center rentals were $49,000 compared to $43,000 last year, which is a 12% increase from fiscal year 2011-2012. So it looks like from the numbers that our rentals are picking up at all of our community centers and our community buildings. If you have any questions, please.
Gentlemen, any questions? No, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Item 7B, 4C, Human Services.
Good afternoon. It's Moises Carrillo, Community Services and Parks Human Services Division, and I wanted to just report a little bit on the report we submitted for the Essentia Emergency Shelter. We recently have almost completed a new emergency shelter for the homeless, sponsored by Essentia. And in your packet, I did give information about the background of the Essentia Center. Is actually a $2 million CDBG loan from HUD to help construct and also acquire the building, which certainly will house a very important element to the city's homeless continuum of care. And before I get into the pictures, which you will be the first public body, the first persons outside our contractors, our builders, to see the insides of the building, and just going to give you a little background. We did have a building that was an existing warehouse on Tyburn Street, which was an 8,100 square foot building, essentially housing some supplies, and we were able to acquire that and construct the emergency shelter. We added approximately about 2,700 feet on the second floor, which you'll see in a minute, and also about 4,000 feet below on the first floor. This is beginnings of the structure as it was several months ago, with the construction of the second floor, which actually will house the beds for the building. Will be 2 stories. The second story will house the beds, a 40-bed emergency shelter for homeless persons. The left side there is actually the new administration office, and the bottom is also a reception area. This is a better view, again, several months ago, well, more than several months ago, for the administration office and the reception area. And this is being built by TLD Construction, which actually has done city projects in the past. This is the newer construction of that same part of the building, which is just about ready to be completed at the end of August and hopefully early September. With Essentia, we hope to have them housed by October 1st this year. Again, another view of the administration side of the building with carports. This is again all new construction of the existing site. And this is the other side of the building, which basically houses on the second floor the beds, and also first floor, which is the kitchen and the community room. This is a picture of the first floor, which I believe is, if I'm not mistaken, it's part of the community room. And this will house definitely a lot of events for the persons staying here and also those who are at the Emergency Shelter Access Center part of it, which receives social services, where they'll get general information from community groups, also exercise. So a number of multi-faceted activities which are not currently possible at the existing site on Fernando Court. So this is the opposite side. This is actually the dining room area, which allow dining room. We're actually going to have, I believe the idea is to have tables, foldable tables, so that this could also be used multi-use, multi-purpose. And it blends itself well because you'll see on this side is the actual kitchen. And we did build a new commercial kitchen that is available to expand their current meals programs, and I believe the morning programs. They have their guest chef programs, which will really help assist Essentia with their outreach and their services to the community. This is a brand-new kitchen with all new kitchen equipment, very top-of-the-line kitchen equipment, which has just a few little tweaks to pass inspection, but we're almost there. Hopefully this week we'll get that all done. This is now the second floor of the building. The second floor does house the women and men in separate areas now. It's important for this building to have some privacy for women and men, but you also see that there is some rooms in here that would allow families with children to be housed, or if there's someone that's ill, then these rooms could be used. But this is, I'm not sure if it's men's or women's, but this is one of the sides of the second floor. This is the opposite side. Again, that adjoining room is here, and this again would be for either men or women at the shelter and children. So again, that separation that's really heightens the intensive case management that's going to go on in the shelter. This is the newer restrooms and the showers. There are, I believe, 2 or 3 areas for showers for the homeless persons to take showers and get ready for a lot of times in the morning for work or to work with agencies. But this is a very nice addition to the emergency shelter. And you'll see this is again one of the restrooms, and one little thing is what we may think we take for granted at home is a bathtub, which most shelters don't really have, a small little bathtub which would allow children, small children, or persons with disabilities to take baths. Normally with the small children, the showers, you just have to shower them down, but now you can get into the bubbles and everything else you want for the kids. So this is a really nice addition to make it a very family-oriented emergency shelter. This is the newer part of the building, which we saw constructed on the second floor. This is the administration side. This would be the executive director, the chief financial officers, and the accountants, which would be housed on the second floor with a reception area. And again, it's to have the administration kind of separate from some of the services downstairs, but again, accessible to everyone. We're still during construction. We are hopefully anticipating some final inspections by the end of next week, and then all the touch-ups will be done the following week, and in probably openings in, like I said, September. And we're looking for a grand opening with, of course, the commission and the city council attending in October 2013. I just also want to add, this is another component to this overall project. This is actually a separate building that is, a few apartment buildings up from the Essentia building. This is a 9-unit apartment building that was bought by Essentia. It will be rehabbed by the city and our housing department using some federal home funds for 9 units of permanent supportive housing. So the intent is to have our clients there at the shelter be self-sufficient to move on to some very affordable housing that could assist them in moving into independence. So this will be a critical part of our homeless continuum of care. It is 9 units. It is about a $280,000 rehab project with federal home funds. Those are housing funds that we have for the city of Glendale, and we expect to start that bidding process this month and get moving on that certainly after the Essentia building is done. It's currently vacant right now, but our hope is to have that ready to go by the beginning of next year. So that's essentially our current project. This is one of 8 current CDBG CIP projects that our CDBG Human Services staff manages. We have presented in the past other projects, but this is certainly our biggest project right now with a cost of about $2 million, about $2.5 million now with our costs. So it is a very significant project for us, and I think it shows well the partnership between the city and Essentia. Essentia did put in a significant amount of matching funds for this project, and of course the operations are managed by Essentia. So any questions or comments on this project?
Questions? Thank you for all the work you're doing on this too, Moises. I know you're spending a lot of time on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have item 7B, 4D, Park Planning and Development.
President Pro Tem Khan and members of the Commission, I know you must be exhausted by now, but indulge us a few more minutes and we're almost done. We're going to be presenting updates on 3 of our upcoming projects. Mr. Peter Verheilig will discuss the Maryland Park construction project. Ms. Janet Tubbs will update you on the Casa Verdugo project. And Mr. Chantor will talk about the latest playground replacement program at Dunsmore and New York. Before we do that, however, Mr. Duran alluded to 6 of our playgrounds being replaced within the next 6 to 12 months. I just want to share with you that we have funding from development impact fees to replace playgrounds at Dunsmore and New York parks. We'll be using CDBG grant money that we received this year to replace playground at Pacific and Palmer parks, and also we are using some of our capital improvement fund as well as our enterprise funding to replace playgrounds at Brant Park and Verdugo North. Earlier, Mr. Panussian also mentioned our efforts in addressing some of our vandalism problems. He did mention a few of our projects in the past that have incorporated cameras into the redesign. But I want to bring to your attention that when Maple Park Community Center was rehabilitated about 2 years ago, the entire camera system was upgraded, and ever since then we have seen a serious decline in vandalism and graffiti throughout the park and the community center. We also did that at Carr Park recently, less than 6 months ago, and again, PD will vouch to that we have seen some decrease. We're seeing other activities, but not necessarily graffiti. Similarly, in Riverwalk, when we grand opened last December, we are in the process of installing cameras there at the either end of the underside of the 5 overpass along that walk. But just the fact that we now have a cleaned up park over there, we've seen a decrease in vandalism as well. Out of the 10 projects that have been listed in the update, I don't want to go through all of them in the interest of time. However, as you can imagine, this section has been busy just like the others, and we have been in close collaboration with our friends at maintenance and community centers. And we have 4 projects that are in the pre-design planning and design phase. We have 2 that are going to be, they're ready to get started. One of them is underway, and Janet will talk about that. And 3 of them are undergoing bidding. And we are addressing some of the changing climate in the bidding industry. You know, the numbers are not coming as low as they used to years ago. We are exercising a lot of value engineering and negotiating where possible. So we are moving along, and we are excited to present these 3 updates to you.
Good evening, President Pro Tem Khan, Commissioners, City staff. My name is Peter Verheilig. I'm a project manager with our Park Planning and Development section, and I'm here to present the Maryland Avenue Park. I'll try to expedite the presentation in light of the hour.
Thank you.
Our overall budget for the project is a little over $3 million. And that includes funds from CDBG grants, some CIP funds, and most notably a Prop 84 grant that's going to pay for the actual construction of the park. A brief history. Last year we went to bid on the project. Bids, we only got 2 bids back, and they were significantly higher than our budget. So Council gave us permission to rebid the project. We did so early this year. We got 10 bids this time, and they were much closer to our budget, and so we were able to award a bid. We are finalizing the contract right now. In fact, it should be being routed for signatures in the next day or so. So we're anticipating starting construction in early September, and should be done with the project by March of next year. For those of you not familiar with the site, it is right there at South Maryland between Windsor Road and Garfield. For reference, the BMW dealership on Brand is just at the lower whoops, try the, where's the laser pointer?
Red button.
The red button, there we go. So the BMW dealership is right here on Brand, to give you a point of reference. And that's the existing site that Mr. Panosian has so kindly kept maintained while we've been, before we start construction. And some of the features are listed here. You have a copy of that, so I'll go through the site plan instead. Here's Maryland Avenue, again, the BMW dealership over here. We have a main entry, and if you walk to the north, we have an outdoor fitness area with 7 pieces of the Greenfield fitness equipment. And as you continue along this walkway, we have a community garden. And note that this is the approved master plan. The actual working drawings are slightly different. We have more plots in the community garden, for instance. As we continue around, we've got a lawn area, which all our mini parks have, then some seating. We are going to recycle the sidewalk concrete that's being demolished and use that for permeable paving in this area. Also, this precast bench here will have some historic imagery that will pay tribute to the past history as the city of Tropico, with its agrarian history, so that will be illustrated on that bench. As we continue around, we've got a swing set, which, because this is a larger mini park, it's a half acre as opposed to a quarter acre, which is kind of typical for the rest of our mini parks, we were able to squeeze a swing in, which usually it takes up a lot of space. We've also got an area here of rocks and ropes, which is another like a climbing opportunity for kids. And in the center, the main piece of play equipment. If we come in and go to the south, we've got a shade structure with some seating underneath it and what appears to be a bridge. This is actually a covered detention basin so that all the site water, the rain, and any irrigation water that is in excess of the planter's needs will flow to this detention basin and recharge the water table in the area. There also, we have a few art elements. We have Brett Goldstone on board to do the gates. He's also designed and built the gates for the Riverwalk project, Phase 1, and for many other LA River parks, so we're looking forward to that addition to the park. And another community art element that will be included is there are 9 precast panels along this bridge-like structure, and the artist will work with the local elementary school to provide art elements on those 9 panels. So that's pretty much the design of the park. These are just some of the mock-ups of the history imagery that will go on that precast bench. And here are some examples of Mr. Goldstone's work at other parks, some of his gates. Here is some imagery of the Greenfield's fitness equipment that will be installed, as well as the main piece of play equipment, and also the swing set, which will include seating for tots and for older kids, 5 to 12-year-olds, and then the climbing rocks as well. As I alluded to earlier, we're almost completed with the contract. We hope to complete construction. It says there October, but I think actually it should be in September, and we're looking to be complete in about March of next year. And I will entertain any questions you have.
Can you go back to the conceptual site plan just real quickly?
Certainly.
On the east side of the site is an alley.
Yes.
Are we proposing to put a wall, a fence? Is that going to be open? How is that treated?
The Maryland frontage and the alley frontage both have tubular steel fences so that the police can have visibility into the park.
But there is a physical barrier there?
Yes, there is.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks. Great. Thank you.
Yes? Okay, thank you very much.
Good afternoon. This is my first time, so bear with me. I'm nervous. Good afternoon, President Pro Tem and Commissioners. My name is Janet Tubbs. I'm a project manager with the Park Planning and Development Department. I'll give you a very brief overview of the Catalina Verdugo Adobe project and also announcing the temporary closure, park closure during our construction efforts. First of all, I'd like to announce that our construction started on August 1st, and it's going well. And we expect the construction to last through November. And for those of you unfamiliar with the park, it's a beautiful, tranquil park that's located north of Glendale, off Kenyatta Boulevard in the Verdugo Woodland West neighborhood. The beautiful park has an existing Adobe museum. You can see a few pictures there. Next slide. The next two slides show the pre-construction conditions of the park. Starting in the upper left-hand corner, we can look at the trellis area. Part of the scope of work is the trellis will be demolished, and the wall that you can see is going to be partially demolished and turned into a seat wall, opening up the view of the adobe of the park. The next picture shows in the bottom center shows the fountain, which will remain. The existing pavers around the fountain will be removed, and decomposed granite will be installed. The next picture shows the patio area, which from the patio you can see the fountain and the wall and the trellis, and you can see how once we demo the wall and trellis, how it's going to open up the park. And actually, to the right in that picture is where the historic Adobe building is located. The top picture shows the main part of our project is the garage. We're renovating that into 2 ADA accessible bathrooms. This slide just shows a couple more pre-construction photos of the picnic area with the picnic tables, which will be replaced. The existing main pedestrian pathway, which is going to be replaced, it's already torn out, and it's going to be re-poured with a concrete swale. This slide shows basically the project overview, which I've just kind of talked about. But in plan view, I'll start in the top. It shows the location of the Adobe Museum, and then it shows the patio area, which will be enhanced by the demo of the trellis over basically to the left, and the partial demo of the wall. Fountain, which will remain. The pavers will be removed, and the decomposed granite will be installed throughout that area. Over to the right, you can see string lighting in the patio area. That's going to be a beautiful new feature with some string lighting overhead. Also in that area, there'll be some new picnic tables. And to the left, you can see the new concrete driveway. That's going to be all new concrete. And in front of where it says garage building right now, that's going to be the renovated restrooms. And in front of that, there's going to be decomposed granite. And to wrap up, a reminder that the Catalina Verdugo Adobe Park will be temporarily closed due to construction activities through November 2013. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Questions? Nicely done for your first presentation.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, President Pro Tem Khan, members of the Commission, city staff, audience. My name is Sean Toro. I'm an Assistant Project Manager for Parks Planning Development. We're talking about Dunsmore, New York playgrounds. I want to kind of piggyback off what Coco had brought up in his report, and it's kind of a perfect relation here. We have a system that we go through to kind of keep our playgrounds up to date, make sure that they're safe, and through Coco's staff and then our building repair staff under Raymond Wong, we do everything we can to maintain those playgrounds and hopefully survive through a decent amount of time before we replace them. Some of them, unfortunately, outlive their useful life, and we have to demolish them and replace them. So I've got 2 parks here that we're going to address. The photos that I have are just the kind of existing and what we are putting in. Up until this point, we were kind of negotiating not only the purchase orders, which were approved finally on Friday, but I just talked to the manufacturers this morning, and through strategic planning, we are taking what normally is a 6 to 8 week lead time, which is manufacturing delivery, and it looks like we may have these projects on site in about 3 to 4 weeks. Because we've been in constant communication with the manufacturer. So the first site is Dunsmore Park, and here you see what used to be a swing set. Now, since these 2 projects were coming up so quickly, we made the decision not to repair them, but to remove the damaged parts and just get through the next couple of weeks until we can get them on site. Dunsmore Park is a pretty large play site. Just north of this, on the other side of those rocks, is a structure that also has a lot of wear and tear, and again has also outlived its useful life. And what we're replacing it with is a newer structure, full ADA compatibility. It actually will match, and if I'm going to go back a slide, it's hard to see in this picture. Behind the sycamore tree there, and some of the other trees on the other side of the rockway behind the swing set, is the playground that replaced in 2008, which is the 2 to 5-year-old, the tot lot. So this new structure will match it in color and style. The only difference is we're removing our wood chips and we're going to a poured-in-place fall surface, which is that rubberized surface you see at a lot of these playgrounds. It adds to the ADA accessibility as well as reduces a lot of the maintenance and care that COCO staff have to incur. The next site, which is New York Playground, you've seen this picture already. Again, we waited till right about when the kids were going back into school so nobody lost their summer and using the playground. COCO staff removed it just recently. Again, hopefully if all goes as planned, playground should be on site in 3 to 4 weeks, and then we have about a 2-week construction time to get these up and running again. And then again, also we're going to be doing poured in place, so this is the new structure that's going into play here. And again, this one now is a 2 to 12 because it's a smaller site. We try to make sure it's usable by all age groups in a smaller location. Short and sweet, and wrap this meeting up, but if there's any questions.
Questions? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So that was our last item.
Yes, it is.
So then we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.